Good afternoon, Facebook. This is Tyra Watson, and I'm coming to you today from the Southwest Grief Corner. We are located at 7901 South Kaminsky, that is in Chicago, Illinois. Again, this is Tyra Watson coming to you from the Southwest Grief Corner, located at 7901 South Kaminsky, and that is in Chicago, Illinois, 60652. Our telephone number here is 773-424-3151. Again, our telephone number here is 773-424-3151. Our website, if you would like to contact us through our website, and if you've been with us for a while now, you do know that we have a lot of things going on and resources, information provided through our website. So please feel free to visit our website. You can also send us a contact form with general questions. Our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. Again, our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. So I'm coming to you guys from today's Grief Corner to kind of talk about, like always, something. And so I'm going to today, we're going to kind of keep it light. It's heavy, but it's light. So we're not going to dig too deep today. I'm going to be off for the next couple weeks. So I'm going to be leaving you guys with the videos that have been recorded. Of course, we've talked about things from financial grief, to living wills, medical power of attorneys. We have talked about grief for children and dealing with death and talking to children about death. I've talked to you guys about the 5 stages of grief and identifying those stages and where you may be. So please do, over these next couple weeks while I'm away, take time to go back through those videos and catch up and see how those things are pertinent to you. I promise you, one area or another, it's all very pertinent. So today I just wanted to kind of just give you guys really a word of encouragement, and for those who are grieving, for those who are dealing with those who are grieving, because we come to the Grief Corner so that we could talk about grief, but we have those who are grieving, and then we have those who are trying to assist and help their loved ones getting through grief, who have suffered loss, maybe friends who have suffered loss, and you're trying to be there. So just to encourage you all as well to continue to be a strong support system. Grief is hard. Grief is intense. Over the weeks, I started this platform May 8th. In the height of COVID, the restrictions continuing to be extended, and felt like it was a good way to be able to meet you guys where you are in your homes, in your office space, if you're at work, in your backyard, in your car, in your closet. Because when we're talking about people who feel grieved, who feel sad, sometimes it gets that dark. And so if you're in the closet, I'm here to meet you in the closet and just try and help lift your spirits, try and get you through what we know as a grief journey. And so I just want to remind you guys that grief is very individual. Please, if you have lost someone, do not allow other people to make you feel like you need to press through or push through your grief. For those who have lost loved ones and are dealing with grief right now, I just want to encourage you to continue to feel what you need to feel. I'm not here to sugarcoat anything, but I'm here to help. And so it would be sugarcoating it by telling you that it's going to get better, and that time heals all wounds. But that's not true. What happens when we lose someone that is so close to us, we learn to live with a hole in our heart. So the question really becomes, because grief brings sadness, because grief brings despair, because grief brings intensity of emotion, then I know that for a person that's dealing with grief, whether it's normal grief or whether it's what we refer to as complicated grief, it all looks the same initially. So if you have recently lost someone, then I'm just here to encourage you to feel what you need to feel, and without sugarcoating it, to let you know that it does hurt. And that you're going to have to go ahead and you're going to have to experience that hurt. It's not about getting through it per se, but it's just learning how to deal with where you are as you're dealing with the detachment of someone that you love. In grief psychology, there is a theorist by the name of Bowlby. Not to bore you with names and titles, but this particular theorist in grief work talks about attachment theory. And so the reason why death is so hard is because we find ourselves in that moment at that time immediately, or whether we knew that the person was going to die and we were able to start kind of processing that we know that it's going to be a loss with this person, so you can deal with anticipatory grief. But whether it's anticipatory grief or whether it is all of a sudden, what happens in that moment is that you have to face the reality of that loss. And with that, it's gonna hurt, and it definitely hurts when you lose someone and you weren't expecting them. Over the last several weeks here, we've had quite a few people who have actually lost their loved ones suddenly. And when you lose someone suddenly, you've had no time to prepare. You've had no time to get the things off of your heart and off of your mind that you wanted to do or say to them. Then now you lose them. That makes that death hard. If you lose someone and you were not expecting to lose them and they die violently, not only are you hurting, but you're also mad. And then there are all the other layers that come with that. And so right now, when you talk about those of you who are dealing with new losses, just don't feel compelled at all to be rushed through this time. But I do want to highlight, as I stated, normal grief and complicated grief can look the same at the beginning. So when you consider whether or not your sadness and your despair and the way that you're feeling, whether or not it's healthy or not, is not going to come into the latter. So if you just want to make sure that you're not experiencing complicated grief, then know that in the beginning that all it is grief. It all seems complicated initially. And in that time frame, do know that it's going to hurt. Do know that it's going to be painful. Do know it's going to take some tears. Do know that it's going to be some dark days and some long nights before you actually get to a place where maybe you feel like talking, or maybe you feel like being bothered with other people. Maybe it's some days where all you do is cry. And then maybe some days you actually feel okay. So all of those things are normal. Be patient with yourself and feeling those things that come with death initially. Don't allow other people to make you feel pressed to get through the right now. If you feel like going to work that day, go to work. If you don't feel like going to work, don't go. This time, it's not going to pass fast. These are going to be long hours, long days, and long nights. And so while I'm here to offer you guys grief support and extension, someplace where, like I say, you can go when it's just you, or if it's, your family and you guys are maybe looking for an outside or a non-biased source to give you guys some encouragement, then here I am. So I want you guys just to be encouraged if you are grieving right now, to continue to go through what you have to go through, knowing that it all seems like complicated grief in the beginning. Time doesn't heal all wounds, but you do learn how to keep going. How do you know if you have complicated grief? How do you know when grief is not good? If you guys get to a place where you can't smile at all, where you can't find a reason to get out of the bed, when you can't find hope, when you do feel like your own life means nothing to you anymore, when you start self-medicating, through it be alcohol or through it be drugs or maybe a combination of both, and moreover mental illness, suicide. And so for those who are dealing with those who are grieving, please be attentive to those types of signs. If they're having a bad day and they don't feel like being bothered that day, leave them alone, because they have to go through their grief process their own way in their own self. So if they don't feel like being bothered that day, just back off, or whatever. Send them a text, let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you. I love you. You know, if you need anything, just let me know. I just want to let you know I'm here. Because people don't always feel like talking, you know. And then I can tell you, especially when we talk about deaths that are sudden, they get tired of telling the story. You know, the first thing that we are inclined to do when we call the person who just lost, you know, the family or the loved one suddenly, first thing that we want to do is find out what happened. People get tired of telling the story. So one of the reasons sometimes when things are sudden that people don't want to talk or be bothered is because they don't want to keep telling the story. So if you're going to be a support to someone and that's their situation, allow them to talk at their leisure. Don't force them for the story, okay? They're tired of telling the story, and to be honest, the story is traumatizing. The story is still unbelievable to them. They're still trying to digest the story themselves. So don't pressure them about that. And if in fact they are open to allowing you to be around them in the time that they're feeling like this, just listen. Don't feel compelled to say a lot of words. One thing that I've learned about death and people wanting to be a support system to those who are grieving is that a lot of times we don't know what to say. And a lot of times, you know, we may think that the things that we're saying are right, but they can come off all wrong. So just understand that when people are grieving and you're trying to help your grieving loved one, let them know that you're just there. You don't have to say anything. Don't fill them with a bunch of words, because already in their head, there's 1,000 things going on. Their heart is heavy, and in their heart, there's 1,000 things going on. So if you're helping the grieving person, please don't bother them with a lot of questions. Just be an ear. Just listen. And if you're not sure what to say, guess what? It's okay not to say nothing at all. And if we're finding that we're seeing signs of that person who's dealing with the grief, who, you know, it is constant despair, it's constant darkness, it's constant crying. They're not going to work. They are not feeling engaged at all. There are no good days. And now we're 6 months, 9 months, a year out, a year and a half. There's no time to grieve. I've talked to you guys about that before, and it's still the case. There's no set time to grieve. And as I mentioned when I started this, I stated that everybody grieves in their own way, and it's not our position to push people through. It's just our position to hold their hand as they're in that dark place. But if we consider then the persons that we're trying to help, and now we're seeing that time, a lot of time has gone by, and they're in that hole, they're in that dark place, then please make sure that you do reach out. Now, this is when you may want to become more assertive, because mental illness is very real. Suicide is very real. I talked to you guys about the stages, the 5 stages of grief. In the 5 stages of grief, we talked in the 4th stage about depression. One of the major things about depression, we identified that as being the #1 disability in the world by the World Health Organization. So one of the big issues with depression is that depression, chronic depression, long-term depression, can lead to suicide. And so we don't want to bother our loved ones initially when they are dealing with the death. You do want to be supportive, but be supportive at their pace, not yours. You know, don't bombard them with the stories and the questions. Just be there. Be quiet. Let them know that you're there. Be done. And then if you're noticing again that at some point that they're not really coming out of it, so that we don't lose our friends, so that we don't lose our sister, our brother to suicide, if you see that depression is upon them, then that's when it's going to be time for you to then maybe step in. And do an intervention, you know, whether it be through family, whether it be through counseling. As you guys know, on our website, we do have several resources for counseling. Today, I'm going to leave you with an additional one. This young lady, Sandra Bass, she actually also does in-home counseling. There's a lot of mental illness out here, whether it be linked to depression, whether it be linked to a death, or whether it be linked to just loss and circumstances in life. There are a number of things that can affect us to the degree that then it causes a downslide or a downturn, if you will. And we have to do a mental check-in. We have to do a mental health check on ourselves. I was on a call this morning, a mental health call, conference, if you will, and it is suggested even with that, they talked about how you have to check on your mental health just like you check on your physical health. You do your mental health once a year. You do your physical health once a year. Yes, I said that right. And then you do your mental health. At least annually, you should do a mental check. So if I'm grieving and I find myself in this dark place and it seems like I'm there a little too long, it's time to do a mental check. If you have a family member or a friend that is dealing with grief and it seems like it's been quite some time and all their days are bad, it's time to do a mental check. But there's a lot of stigma about counseling and therapy, especially in minority communities, specifically Black communities. I can speak about mine. So specifically in Black communities, there's a lot of stigma about seeing a shrink or about seeing a counselor, about talking to someone. Now, I do want to be the first to say to you that your strongest support system is going to come from your family and your friends. If you have a really strong support system and they're there for you and they're not, agitating you and irritating you, please embrace the love that they're trying to give you and the support that they're trying to give you in this time. But if in fact, that community of people are now coming together for you, and that maybe it is, that you are in a dark place, let them help you. Let them intervene for you. Don't worry about the stigmas that are placed on people talking to shrinks or people talking to therapists. The fact is that sometimes you will do better talking to someone that is non-biased, that you don't know, because then you can really open up and talk about the things that you don't want people to know about. It could be circumstances surrounding the death and you're just not interested in having your closest to know about it, and it could be that thing that you're not talking about that is the thing that grieves you most. So then when I can talk to a neutral party, not only are they not judging me, they're also in a place to be able to help me, because this is what they do. Because I have to remember that when I'm talking to my family and my friends, that they're hurting too. So likely the loss that I'm grieving about, the loss that's making me upset, sad, depressed, angry, is the same loss that they too are suffering from. So you got hurt people trying to help people, but hurt people hurt people. So if there's things that are going on around the death, even in situations, then everybody's angry, everybody's upset, and then it's just going to be an emotionally charged and an emotionally fueled situation. And so while most of your support can come from your family and your friends, because I'm just here to help, counselors are here to help you through your grief journey, but your biggest support comes from your family and your friends. But the thing that we have to remember is that our family and friends, if they're connected to their loss, that they're grieving too. So then they really can't help us. So it's very highly recommended that if necessary, you talk to someone. Don't let stigmas stop you from doing your mental health check. And definitely don't let a loss and stigmas on therapy, if that's the thing that may actually wind up helping you, be the thing that you turn your back to, because you're still living. And you guys have heard me say this before, you're still living. And while you're still yet alive, life is for the living. And God takes, and whomever you may believe in or not believe in, when that life is over, your life is still yet to be lived. The books are still yet to be written on your life. So at some point, while the loss is hurtful and the loss is painful, at some point you have to release yourself to keep living your life, and you carry that hole in your heart, but you can live healthy. A heart murmur is actually defined by a hole in the heart, and people are born with heart murmurs. They don't develop them when you're older out the blue. I got a heart murmur and I'm 45. No, people are born with heart murmurs, and heart murmurs are a hole in the heart. So you can live with a hole in your heart, but if you start again to see that the issues and the circumstances are really causing you you deep grief, complicated grief, and that'll be the thing that I talk to you guys about more in depth when I return, is complicated grief. But if you see that you're suffering from complicated grief, please do reach out and get some help. I will be adding another resource for you guys. This is Miss Sandra Bask. I mentioned her a few minutes ago. Miss Sandra Bask of RESK, R-E-S-K, RESK Services. 312 is the number, 721-2471. Again, that's RESK, R-E-S-K Services, 312-721-2471, and that's going to be at extension 4. And her website is resk.services. That is resk.services.com. Sorry, reskservices.com. And Miss Bass actually does do in-home counseling. So right now, and that was also one of the things that we discussed this morning, right now you're finding more therapists doing in-home sessions. So for some people, the stigma is that they don't want to be seen, with a shrink or know anyone, let people know that they're going to a shrink or a psychiatrist or a therapist or a counselor. There's been an increase in therapy services during this COVID season because people have suffered loss, not only in death, but in jobs, in racial disparity and issues that are coming on with that. As I stated about a month ago, our world is in a grieved state. So as people are grieving and people are hurting out here, a lot of people are realizing that they don't have anywhere else to turn, and they really do feel like I'm going crazy. And so when you're locked in the house in the middle of a pandemic that's killing people, and then you start losing jobs, and now the brink of losing my home or the brink of losing my my apartment, your dwelling place. Maslow's hierarchy of needs states that at the bottom, the very base of that pyramid, just like the food pyramid, is shelter and security. If that is disturbed, you can't expect me to function. You can't expect me to be okay and think about other things if my home is not squared away. So in all of this, and as people are trying to process their feelings, then people have now started to accept that, therapy, or I need to talk to someone, let's say conversations with counselors. Conversations with counselors have increased because now the counselors are available to talk to you just like I'm talking to you. So if you have a thing with going to see someone because you don't want to go to a counselor's office, take advantage of this in this season where everybody is doing so many things online, and you could talk to them from the comfort of your own home. But Miss Bass does come to the home. So if that's something that you're interested in and that would be a comfortable setting for you, please reach out to her. Of course, you know that we are here and we are available. I'm available to you. And we're here to be able to provide a holistic perspective, a holistic approach to being able to help you through your grief journey. So today, again, I just wanted to encourage those who are grieving to continue to grieve and feel what you need to feel without sugarcoating it. Know that it is going to hurt right now. And if you are in pain right now, do know that we are praying for you. You're on our hearts. You're on our minds. And just let time do what it does so that you can learn to live with that hole in your heart. For those who are dealing with grieving people, continue to be a support system to them, but don't agitate them. Don't irritate them. Definitely, if there was a traumatic death, don't bombard them with the questions of what happened. They will tell you when they're ready, and they will share as much or as little as they like. Small doses sometimes are better. So be an encouragement to them. Keep an eye on them. And if you start to see, again, that it's been quite some time, even though grief is individual and there is no time frame for it. If it's been, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and it's day for day for day, sadness, despair, darkness, no activities of daily living, having a hard time even doing just their normal activities of daily living, washing, eating, things like that. That's a problem. At that point, go ahead and step in so that you can save them, because depression is very real. Mental illness is very real. Suicide is very real. I have another resource for you guys. George at True Heights. treatment that is in Chicago Heights. When we talk about minorities and the stigmas on counseling, his practice is there. He is one of only 2 counselors in that Chicago Heights area of 30,000 residents. And so people have things that are on their mind. Again, do your mental check just like you do your physical check, okay? And so with him being out there in that area, he's available and offering his resources to you guys as well. We will add that to our website. And again, if you have your family to support you and you have your friends to support you, that's good. Again, I'm here as an ancillary support. Counselors and therapists and others are here as an ancillary support. Drugs and medications, all of those things, that's ancillary to the baseline of actually talking to someone. Get your feelings out. Don't bottle it up, okay? Because it'll eat you alive inside. And suicide is definitely a concern because people die of suicide every day. And so we don't want that to happen. So watch out for your people. Be encouraged. Take the stigmas off about counseling, therapy, conversations with counselors. Do what's best for you. With Miss Bass, Sandra Bass, she does accept insurance. She accepts Medicaid. And, you know, there's some flexibility there as well. Some employers do offer employee assistance when it comes to these types of services. So please look into those things with your employer if you're considering that it's an issue of money. But if you have Medicaid, and I know that a lot of people do, if you have Medicaid, these counseling resources are available to you. Please take advantage of them. Again, your mental health is just as important. Actually, your mental health is more important than your physical health. The Bible says, so a man thinketh, so is he. Greek philosopher Rene Descartes says, I think, therefore I am. Everything begins with a thought. If I'm feeling sickness in my mind, soon after the body will follow. There's a lawsuit of a lady for her brother because the guy did a backflip. He had been suffering from mental illness for almost 20 years, I believe it was, after his mother died. Then he lost his kid. And then he wind up having a drug laced with PCP, and he went crazy off of that. And he was never the same after that. He wasn't responsible for that mental illness, but that grief that he was feeling had him to seek out something that wind up poisoning him. And now in a new mental state, he's out there on the streets, you know, whatever. He was homeless by choice, says the sister. He's out there on the streets. And some tourists in the area, you know, give him $6 to do a backflip. This young man who's been poisoned with PCP, kind of out of his mind for at least the last decade or so, then does a backflip for this $6 to get food. When he does this backflip, he lands on his neck and he dies. We're talking mental illness. You never know what the trigger is going to be to cause someone to do something that will harm themselves, take something that's going to harm themselves, or flat out them just harm themselves. So watch your people. And again, don't think above, you know, the counseling level, because you have to get it out. Because what's here eventually comes out here. It comes out here, comes out here. That's why people just, it comes out. You can't bury this stuff. Don't try, because it'll eat you alive. And so I'm thinking about you guys. Again, do your mental checkups. I'll see you all in a couple weeks. In the meantime, please do go back and check out the videos that you may have missed. Catch yourself up. And if there's anything that we can help you with, again, we're here. Our number is 773-424-3151. Again, our phone number is 773-424-3151. And our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. Again, our website is www.southwestfunerallandcremation.com. To all of you all out there, continue to be well, continue to be safe. If I could be a help to you, that's what I'm here for. And in the meantime, please search our website and take advantage of the counseling resources. We got to do mental checks just like we got to do physical checks, okay? It's for our well-being. All right. Love you guys. Have a good one. Be blessed.